Hello, I'm about to take you to Yap City. Hey y'all, it's been a minute since you've probably seen me if you don't follow me on other social platforms like Instagram and TikTok. But if you are only over here, it's been a minute. Last month, I went on my very first cruise and I want to yap about that experience. I flew Southwest because of their bag policy, 2 free check bags, a personal item, and a carry-on. I tend to pack everything I need, and that might translate to overpacking. But I hate going on vacation not having everything that I need to feel comfortable in a new place. We flew in a day before it was time to board the ship, and that was the smartest thing we could have ever done because the hustle to get from point A to point B from the airport specifically and MIA is just not the most friendly experience, and it can cause a lot of stress. So we went to a nearby hotel and just stayed the night. Now, the ship boarding process wasn't so bad. After you get past their check-in workers and their dogs and TSA and all that, it's pretty much smooth sailing until you get on the boat. And then you come against the biggest roadblock I've ever seen in my life, which was trying to grab an elevator to either go up to the room or go to the safety area that we needed to go to. After we, played the Hunger Games game and got an elevator, we went to our safety deck. And because we couldn't check into our room for, I think, another hour after that point, we decided to go down to the eatery area and grab some tacos and some chicken sandwiches because I know I was starving after trying to go through all of that. Got to the room. It was in pristine shape. Everything was very nice. One thing I didn't know about the ships is that every room comes with a stateroom attendant. They are responsible for basically tidying your room. And by tidying, I mean just the bathrooms and making sure your bed is made. My attendant went by the name of Tu. He was such a delight, and I know that they have to be friendly and they have to, put on a good foot. But I really felt warmth from him. Before we even reached our first destination, we spent 2 days out at sea. And every day when I woke up, I made sure to try to catch the sunrise. Out on the water, there is nothing like it. It was the most beautiful sunrises I think I've ever seen in my life, and I would love to experience them again. Everything just looked like something out of a fantasy book. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was very beautiful. And I made a point to, after I soaked in the sunrise, to also try to journal a little bit because how my memory works when I go and do things I've never done before. It takes me a while to process what I've been through. And I didn't want to forget any details. So during those fun days at sea, I wasn't sick until the 3rd day, and I didn't think I was going to get much motion sickness, but because I felt like, it more so felt like that I was losing my balance and that I kind of started feeling a little nauseous, not so much. It was more so just a balancing thing for me. So after having a few trip scares or what I thought I was going to go down, I decided to go back to the room by myself, take some chewable Dramamine, which is motion sickness medication, and I took a nap. Thank God that my friend knew that I was going to have some motion sickness tablets because the little wristlet things that I had just weren't working for me, I don't think. So I took those, woke up, took a nap, had a burger, and then I felt better. I also realized I did not talk about my experience in the club. They had a Motown night right before the club was supposed to open. So I went with my mom and our family friend, and we went to Motown night, which was nice. And then it turned to the club. They had line dances, and I swag surfed with strangers. I had to ask a guy next to me. He looked like he was my age, and we swag surfed, and it was fun. It was just a good night to let your hair down and kind of be free. And I did not go to the club except for that one night. One thing I do want to talk about is the food aboard the ship. When you hear about cruise ship food, you either get people who rave about it, saying it's the best thing that they ever had, or you get people who complain about it, saying it's the worst food that they've ever had. I'm going to say that it was satisfactory for a few reasons, because the food is not seasoned a lot, and I understand why not, because they have to appeal to everybody's dietary needs. However, again, it wasn't seasoned. All the meat was tender. Me and my mom both had shrimp, and me and her both broke out in hives. Now at home, I eat fish. I'll eat shrimp every now and then, but it's not something that, I've ever had issues with before. But on the ship, I broke out with hives all on my back, all on my shoulders. So we ended up having to buy some Benadryl to help with our outbreak. And in future instances on ships, I'm only going to eat chicken and beef and maybe pork, and that's it, because that was an unsavory experience. The shrimp, I should say, was really good. Like, it was cooked well and it had some flavoring. But how it left me afterwards, I don't think I'd ever get that again. The desserts equally were okay. The best thing that they had on the ship was gelato, which is like a slow churned ice cream. And I had like one hazelnut and one coffee ice cream. It was so good. Another thing that they have on those ships that are really good is the coffee. I had a cup every day. And I needed the cup just to make sure that I was like astute and ready to take on the day, because in my day-to-day life, like, I'm in the house, I'm kind of relaxing, I'm not like on the move. So coffee was definitely a plus, and I love drinking it every single day. Now, one thing I kind of alluded to is how much ocean gazing I did, and the peace that you get from the water is just like something I've never experienced before. But I couldn't help but to think about our ancestors who probably have traversed those waters due to colonialism. Although it was very peaceful, I also thought about the chaos that had happened on those very waters. It was just a little sobering to think about, but I was happy that I could acknowledge that and kind of pay my respects in my silence and my solitude with the water. The first island we landed on was Bonaire. I had never heard of this island prior to the itinerary being given. I didn't do any research prior to going, because I kind of wanted to just kind of be surprised and be able to do some research when I got back home. Pulled up to the island, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. They had black coral all on the edges of the island, and it was overcast that day, so the sun wasn't out, which was good for me because it was extremely humid. I mean, if you are a person who don't like to sweat, like, when you get off the boat, you're going to sweat down. Like, you're going to sweat from every crevice in your body, and you basically just got to get used to it. But our travel guide took us to the beach. They had wild flamingos nearby. They also had donkeys on the island that were basically just looking for food. And he said that they were domesticated, but they were really cute. And he took us by two things on that island that I don't think I'm ever going to forget. One being these huge salt mounds. He said that on that island, they basically mined salt and kept salt. And they have these huge fields that were like pink. And basically they're pink because of some sort of bacteria that's in the water that's interacting with the sodium. And we also got to take some salt with us, which I thought was really cool. But it wasn't until I went to another island to realize why salt was just like a hot commodity on those islands. But I'll talk about that again a little later. Bonaire is not a huge island. I think he told us that if we wanted to like traverse the north and south side, it would only take like an hour. And that's probably correct, because they have no street lights, no speed limits, and they only had like one road going to the south side of the island. Another area he took us to, which personally I thought was disrespectful, but it's a landmark there. They have like the old slave quarters on the island, which to me looked like dog huts. And what was strange about it, like, the tour guide will stop and you can get out and like interact with the building and like take pictures and stuff. That's not something I wanted to do because again, I feel like the blood, sweat, and tears that went on in these places and the inhumane conditions that they allow people to live on is just not something that I feel comfortable touring and being a tourist in. If anything, it made my heart heavy and it just made me uncomfortable. So be on the lookout if you ever go to this island. They do have their slave quarters there and they have rehabilitated them. I understand why they still left them there, just kind of as a remembrance, but it's such a dark history that I just feel like the energy surrounding places like that should be kind of respected a little bit more and not seen as like another tourist attraction, because it's not. So after we did that, we went to like a little beach and I saw windsurfers, which I have never seen with my natural eyes before. And it was cool just to see them like be in their element and like this is the life that they're living on a day-to-day basis. It was just kind of like surreal. It just didn't, it wasn't like connecting to me like people live their lives like this every day. What I found really interesting on the island is the different type of vegetation that they had there. So I took a lot of pictures of like the trees and some of the grasses and the flowers that they had. One thing I learned is that you cannot take any plants or any like vegetation off the island. TSA will take it from you because they don't want any cross-contamination with our agriculture here or wherever you're from. So I just made sure to take plenty of pictures because there were plants and, flowers and things I've never seen before with my natural eyes. So I thought that was really cool and I found a lot of appreciation in that. The next island we went to is Aruba, and this island was very special because a friend of mine got married on the beach, on the sand, and it was a really beautiful experience. I arrived at the beach with my sunglasses on because the sun was just that bright and intense. I was terrified with the dress I had on. Was I gonna like sweat from head to toe? And another thing I don't think I talked about, I was anal about sunscreen in all these places because the sun, like where I'm from in the Midwest of the United States, is intense. But the sun south of the equator and like in the ocean and by those islands, it's like another level of intensity I don't think I've ever experienced. And you know how like here we'll like forego like the warning on the label. It says reapply after every hour, every 2 hours. You'd be like, I'm good. Down there, you must reapply because you sweat so much. I sweated so much. I felt just like glazed the whole time I was on each island. But Aruba is very, very beautiful. It is a little bit more developed than Bonaire, meaning that they do have more paved roads. And they did have, I think, a few stoplights, if I'm not mistaken, but not too many. They had a lot of iguanas and lizards just roaming around the beach. And the sand was really, really bright. It was the brightest sand I've ever seen in my life. And the water was a particular type of blue that I've never, ever seen in my life. I was able to put my feet in the water for a bit, but I wasn't able to get into my swimsuit because it was so hot. I didn't want my mom to be exposed to that type of heat. So we decided after the wedding was done, which was a beautiful experience again, by the way, and I was crying all over the place because that's just how I am. After she got married, we went to like a beach bar and then we took a taxi back to the cruise ship. So my mom can cool down and so I could cool down because that's how I got this tan. And if you can see the tan on my chest, it was because of how that dress was made, which I guess I should be more mindful of if I don't want a crazy tan line. And I also got a tan line up here, but I don't think you can see it, thankfully. But that was a burning sensation. It felt like my skin was like sizzling. So I'm kind of happy I didn't stay out there too long because heat sickness is a thing too, the more you know. Aruba was absolutely beautiful, though. That's a place that I would really love to go and just vacation at, like, directly. Well, cruise ships, when they port, they don't stay all day long all the time. So I think that Cruising is good for like getting a taste of an island. It's like a buffet of an island. Then you get to see if you want to go back to that place. The last island we went to was Curaçao. And the reason I was excited to go there is because the only thing I knew about this island was that they produced a blue liqueur. And so I knew that they had the original factory there. So I wanted to take a trip there and visit. Again, once we got off that ship in the morning, it was drizzling. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good day. But shortly after the drizzling stopped, the heat like rushed in like a mighty wind and began the sweating. So this day I knew I didn't want to do a lot of walking or a lot of stuff going on there. So we decided to take a taxi to the distillery where they make the blue liqueur. And our tour guide, Tino, he taught us all about like the history of the liqueur and how it came about, as well as how to tell if it's authentic. One thing I appreciated Tino, which was our tour guide at the distillery, he taught us the reason why salt back then was harvested or mined and taken care of on the islands is because back in the day, that's how they used to preserve their food. So the colonial people would take Africans and enslave them so that they can mine the salt so that they can preserve food in their home areas. But he also taught me that, or taught us that the reason why Curaçao is home to like the specific brand of that and the originators of that is because of the soil. So it was a Jewish family, I believe, who went there and they started planting this seed and this fruit. And they thought that it was going to turn out the same way it did wherever they were originally from, but it didn't. The fruit changed because the soil there is just so much different and it produced this new fruit. And so I thought that was so cool just to learn like how everything came about. One thing that I was really fascinated by is that they still do all of their distilling, bottling, everything in that same distillery, in that same farm. They even hand peel the fruit that they need for that. So that's just really, really cool. And all the workers there were so nice. And I just felt at home with them. Like I didn't feel out of place or like odd. They felt like, like that's kinfolk, they felt like really like hospitable and like really at home. So if I could recommend one place to definitely go, if you go back to Curaçao or you go to find yourself in Curaçao, is going to be at Landish Chobolobo. We bought the deluxe package, so we got to have 2 drinks of our choosing afterwards, and we got to sample the actual liqueur, the different types of flavors that they had, which was really cool. Everything was beautiful. It was, again, really hot and I was glazed, but I really enjoyed my drinks. We got to talk to people from all over the world. And that's one thing I don't think I was prepared for. Like when you get on a cruise ship, I think you think that like most people are from the United States, but that may not necessarily be the case. And then the people that you meet on the island, obviously they're from different places too. So that was really a dope experience. We had 2 more fun days at sea after that, which we just did like little activities on the ship. We played bingo. We attended a family feud that was on the ship. They had like little different events. Like I said, the only thing I don't like about the ship culture is that like every place you go, they're trying to sell you something. At the art exhibit, at the gym, like every place you go, they're trying to sell you something. So you have to be firm on your no's and firm on your yeses if that's truly something that you want. They also had duty-free areas, so you could buy like perfume. That's one thing I think I'll do next time is buy duty-free perfume on the ship. And they also had like old vintage luxury purses if you're into that. And they had duty-free alcohol and tobacco, which I'm not really that interested in. One thing I do regret, though, is not having a taste of white Hennessy. Still to this day, I don't know what it tastes like. and they had it on the ship. But I just wasn't that interested in exploring that on this trip, maybe on another trip, and we'll see. But that was my experience. I'll show you my magnets that I collected from these places. All right. I think I've yapped enough about this trip, and hopefully next time you'll see me yapping about something else that I like. All right. See y'all next time. And again, follow me on TikTok or Instagram if you want to see more regular content from me. And then if not, I'll see you on here next time. Bye.